my YouTube friends! I have the video creation process down to a science at this point. So here on this channel, I'm a one-man show. So that means I have to be efficient if I want to continue to be able to create at least 2 videos a week. And I have a process that I think anyone can follow. So today, I want to share that process with you. Now the goal is to hopefully cut the time that it takes you to create amazing videos so that you can share your knowledge with the world. I got a lot to cover today, so you know what? Let's get to it! Now I am going to go through all of the settings for recording your content in this video so you know how to get OBS set up properly. However, you're going to have different equipment than I do, so it's better for you to know what the settings do so you can set it up properly for your setup and equipment. The real purpose of this video is to help you get everything set up so you can easily create content using OBS. And I think the best way to do that is to start by showing you my setup and exploring the choices that I made and the reasons why I made those choices. Now you may just be starting out, so your setup is going to be different. But when you understand why I made the choices that I did, it can help you replicate the same process for yourself. And it's really the process that's important here to make it easy for you to record your content. So let me show you. All right, so this is the setup from my view where I sit. We can see that I have 3 different monitors, 1, 2, and 3. I have a webcam sitting right here, and that is my main camera. And if you're interested in what that camera looks like, I have a second one right here. It's just a Sony a6500. It has the exact same lens. And what makes this lens important is it's a manual focus lens, which means that I can set this lens up one time so that it picks me up exactly the way that I want, and then I never have to touch it again. Because as you can see, it's buried back there, and it's more difficult to get to than you would think. So this camera never, ever gets turned off. It's always on. When I boot up my computer, everything comes up, and that camera is ready to go. Now, you see some cables coming out of that camera, and they run down here, and then they run up over here. And there is the microphone. You could see it's a Sennheiser microphone, and I have a duplicate of it right here so that you can see it is an MKE 600, and it's a very simple microphone. It has a built-in internal battery so that it doesn't need any external processing. All I have to do is turn the on button on right here, and it's ready to go. You can see it's an XLR microphone, but I have it hooked up to a cable so I could just plug it right into my camera. So lighting wise, I've got a light back here, I've got a light over here, and I have a light above me. So we've got a 3 light setup. This light is the main light that illuminates the front of my face. This light adds a little bit of shadow on one side, and this up here kind of gives me a drop so that it makes my background blend in more and look more kind of washed out. Gives that softer feel. So if I turn around here, you can see that we've got my backdrop. And I spent a lot of time and energy creating the look of my backdrop. From the corner shelf to the lights to the images and all that stuff. I want this to say something about me. So I've got my Eagles helmet there, and you know, we've got the Predator and Boba Fett because I'm a big Star Wars fan. We also have the R2-D2 light here, and these are just glasses. I think I got them from Treasure Island when that actually existed in Las Vegas on my honeymoon. Just simple glasses up here, some more Star Wars, R2-D2, that sort of stuff from my kids. My daughter painted these pictures. Some books that I love, including my favorite book right there. And so yeah, the background just says a little bit about me, but the main goal is for it to kind of blend in and be interesting and be fun, but also be something that's going to look good, that doesn't require a lot of maintenance. So every one of these lights is just a simple LED string that are all tied together. They all work using remote controls, so I just turn them on. Same with all of these, work off of this remote control right here. I can turn them on and off change the colors if I want. And that basically is the background. All of these things in my background were collected over a lifetime of just collecting junk. So none of it really cost me anything except for that little corner there and the bookshelves. But even so, simple $20 bookshelves. That bookshelf there I ordered off of Amazon, cost almost nothing. And these cost almost nothing as well. So it's just junk that we put together to make it look good. And if we step back here a little bit, you can see this is a small room. I don't even have the background painted all the way. I do have some extra lights so that you can see what these lights actually look like. These are simple, newer lights. They're not very expensive. They all come with the stands and everything else. And they all come with everything that you need over there. But you can see how far back I am actually sitting from the studio. Which is why occasionally, especially if you see me on the live stream, you see me squint to read the chat. Because I'm sitting pretty far back. But that's where I want my camera to focus, which gives me the best look on the back of my studio. So all of these lights here are on a remote control as well. So all I have to do is click the on or off on my remote, and there we go. So when I come into my studio, all I have to do is turn the computer on over there, flip on a couple of monitors, which is very simple. Then I use the remote controls to turn on all the lights, and then I just open up OBS, and I'm ready to film. Everything is exactly how I want it to be, so I could be up and recording in 30 seconds. Now you'll notice that there is a surround on that camera that's not on this camera. That surround is actually a teleprompter. And it's another very inexpensive piece that you put your cell phone in there, run some software so that I can have all my scripts written, place them right there, and I can use this remote right here to actuate the teleprompter. So when I sit down, I can literally create all of my video content within 5 or 10 minutes and have everything recorded. That's how I'm able to create videos that really help you. Because if I just went off script and was just talking, well, the videos would be 3 times longer and I would inevitably miss all kinds of information that you guys would find important. So it's really important to have something like a teleprompter, or you can just put it on your screens so that you can read your script. But when you are reading your script, you don't want to look like you're reading your script, which is what makes a teleprompter so awesome. You're always looking directly at the camera. It's definitely important because that's how you make the connection with your audience. If you're just starting out, you may have something more like a setup that has a webcam like that. And that's fine. I'm going to show you exactly how to set that stuff up so it can be just as easy as this for you. You also may not have access to lighting like this. When you're just starting out, that stuff is an expense and you don't need it. But if you notice, I have a window right there and we've got it all blocked out. I've got a window right there and it's all blocked out. But I could easily use those windows and film during the day to bring in natural light. And the only thing I'd be missing is that right there. Well, right above that, I have a ceiling fan with a light. So I could easily have a headlight as well and just use those 2 windows to give me the same light as those. So it's not impossible to do. The only problem is you really can't control light from there and light from there the way that you can control light from there and light from there, which means you might have to film only at specific times of the day when you're getting the light that you want. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but there are other alternatives that are just regular lights, like clamp lights that you can get at Home Depot or anything like that. You can just put them on stands or clamp them to a shelf, and you can use those for the same purpose as these lights. These are just really convenient because I can turn them on and they're always exactly the same every time I use them. So every single decision that I made, from the camera placement, the microphone that I'm using, to the placement of the lights and the lights that I selected, were all done to make everything as easy to turn on and have the same every time as possible. Because the goal here is to be able to come in, flip it on, and record like that. And if everything is the same and I get the same results every time, then I'm doing it right. I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking or worrying or getting the look that I want. I already have that. Now you may be thinking, well, doesn't that make the video process boring and all that stuff? Trust me, when you're constantly worried about your setup and getting this shot and getting that look, well, it really does cut into or make it more difficult to film videos, in which case you probably won't film as many videos. And at the end of the day, especially when you're starting out and you're learning how all that stuff works, you really want to make it as easy as possible. You can be creative in the edit. That's perfectly fine. If you can just get in here and get that stuff on film, the rest comes together a whole lot easier. Okay, so now you see my layout, and hopefully you have ideas on how you can set it up in your area. Let's talk about the OBS setup. So let's talk about the recording process and setting up your recordings. So if I go into our settings, we're going to go into output, and it starts out in simple mode when you first go in there. We're not going to use that. We're going to drop this down and select advanced. And then you've got your streaming settings and your recording settings and your audio settings. So let's go to recording settings. Right here is the recording path. So you want to browse and put it to a location where you want your recordings to be saved, and you can select that folder and you're all set. So as far as recording formats go, editing is a heck of a lot easier when I use MP4. So that's what I always select. You can use other ones, and you do have to be aware when you use MPEG-4 that your recordings can become unrecoverable. And what that means is that if you were to get a blue screen or OBS crashes, the recording that you just made might be unusable. However, I've never actually had it crash or lost any footage, but if you did, the whole purpose of this is to make the setup so easy that if you had to reboot it and come back up, you could have it ready to go in a couple of seconds anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I select MP4 because that's what makes it easy to actually edit, and it also looks great. As far as video encoders, here is where things could be different for you. Now you see there are a lot of different video encoders in here, and if you use Mac, there'll be more, and if you use an AMD, that would be different as well. If you don't have an actual built-in graphics card with an encoder, you're going to use X264, and that would be basically one of your only options. So you just want to select the proper encoder for the video card, graphics card, or system that you have. Let's start out with X264 because anyone who's doing this on a laptop, well, that's probably what they're going to use because they don't have anything else. The audio encoder can be whatever you want it to be. You don't really need to mess around with this all that much. We've got our audio tracks. Don't need to worry about that either. Rescale output you want disabled. Really, at the top, that's all you need. Now, before we set our encoder settings down here on the bottom, let's go over here to video for a second and decide on our base canvas and our canvas resolution. If you're using a 4K camera, you can set this up for 4K. If you're using a 1920 by 1080 webcam or something like that, then you're going to set it up this way. If you drop this down and you don't see your canvas resolution, it's pretty simple just to put in whatever you want right here. So we can go 3840, and then you just put the X in there by 2160. And there we go. Now we've got 4K base canvas resolution. And when you drop this down, guess what? That's going to be in here as well. 3840, 2160. You definitely want to have both of these set at the same resolution no matter what, whether it's 1920 by 1080 or 3840 by 2160. As long as they're set the same, you're in good shape. You can come down here and change your frame rate as well. 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, whatever you want it to be. So now that we've figured out our base canvas resolution, we're going to film in 4K at 60 frames per second. We can go back here and set up our output. Now you have to keep in mind when you're using X264 because you don't have a graphics card that this thing could chug along and it could really struggle to encode something as big as 4K. You might have to step it down. But to start out with, if I was going to do 4K, I would do 60,000 kilobits per second. That's going to give me the kind of look that I want. And then down here, you don't really need to mess around with any of this when you first start out. Very fast profile tune, all that stuff. Just set it at 60,000, click apply, and see if it records and does everything that you want it to do. And make sure that your voice and your image line up, because if they don't, then that means it's having difficulty processing what you're doing. If they don't line up, you can go down here into advanced, and you can go to your process priority and set it to high to give your OBS a little more priority, and then record again and see if that's gonna work. If that works, great. If it doesn't, you're gonna go back into your output and you're gonna adjust this and maybe make it super fast or ultra fast, record, see if that records properly and does everything it's supposed to do. Secondarily, make sure that you're getting the look that you want and it looks clean and good. If none of that is the case, then you're going to have to probably lower your bit rate. You can start by going to 50,000 and then to 40,000 and leaving it in very fast. And you want to basically look at the image results that you're getting. If they're not as good as you would hope for when your machine is finally functioning properly on the record, well, then all you can really do is go into video and lower your resolution. So go down to 1920 by 1080, go back into here and bump up your bit rate again and try it again. The main goal here is to get quality recording that you can replicate every single time you turn it on. So this and the resolution are where you're really gonna have to mess with if you're using X264. Sorry about that, it is what it is. It's the difficulty of not having a built-in encoder from an NVIDIA card or something like that. Now, for those of you with an NVIDIA card, anyone using a Mac or Apple or anything like that, it's going to be really easy to set up. You just select your NVIDIA encoder, your AMD encoder, or the Apple encoder. You're going to set this. I use constant bit rate. Some people use other things. I'm just making it easy. And then I go with 60,000 kilobits per second. Basically set up like that. We'll do the same tests. More than likely, it's going to work. It's going to look great. It's going to record and save, and you're all set. And there you go. So now we're set and done setting this up. All we have to do is create our scenes. Now, for me to create a scene, I can click the plus, and I can go to a video capture device. And when I load my video capture device in here, it's going to be awesome. It's going to look perfect. I don't really have to configure anything because, well, I've already set the camera up on the camera. However, if you're in a situation where you're using a webcam, you may have to mess around with it a little more. So let's go and load in a USB camera like this one, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, I don't have it set up right. Sorry. But the main thing that we're looking at here is, device default. We can go to custom. We can set up our resolution for whatever we want it to run. So there we go. What we want to do is we want to go in here to configure video. And we want to make sure that we set these up so it's going to give us what we want. So where do we want the camera to focus? You can see it's set to auto now, but maybe you want it to focus differently than that. So you can do that. You can set up where you want your camera to focus, especially if you have a good webcam. So you set up your focus properly. You set up your exposure properly so that you get the exact look that you want. We'll go a little lighter than that. There we go. We can go into here and we can set our brightness and our contrast, our hue, our saturation. And then before you exit out of here, you want to take some screenshots so that you know. Now, I always know my camera's going to save exactly what I want, but you don't necessarily always know that when you're talking about webcams. OBS has gotten a lot better at saving these settings, but before you leave, when you get it all dialed in and have everything that you want, just take a screenshot of your settings so that if you have to, you can come back in here and set it up. And you click OK. And the last thing that you're going to want to do is get your audio device squared away. Now, you should be using a third-party mic. You probably don't want to use a microphone on the webcam if you don't have to. And sometimes you might have to, and it is what it is. But hopefully, eventually, you get an external mic, and you just want to use a custom audio device. You want to go down here, and you want to select that custom audio device so that you get the kind of audio that you're looking for. So obviously I wouldn't set this on 4K if I was using this webcam, but You just fit it up, do whatever you want. My microphone cable's in the way. The point is, now we have everything all set up. All you have to do is go and click record, and then our recordings are going to be saved to our recorder location right here. Now, you can adjust your audio settings if you like. I never do. If your microphone is good quality, you don't need to bump these up. You just have to have it located in the proper location so that it picks up your voice right and it doesn't pick up a lot of external noise. And that's really all you have to do. So those are the most important settings, how you use them, how they work, what they do, and how to set up your recording so that you can just turn on OBS, click that record button, assuming that everything looks the way you want, and you're ready to go. Pretty easy, I told you. The goal here is to be able to turn on the lights, flip a couple of switches, and hit the record and get the same result every time. Now, if you can do that, it removes all the barriers to creating content or even to live streaming. Because if it's easy, you're going to do it more and be more creative. And at the end of the day, if more people create content that shares their gifts and passion because of this channel, I feel like I'm doing it right. And I love that. And that reminds me, let me know what sort of content you're doing down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it for sure. And if you want to learn more about my particular lighting setup, you should check this video out here. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Feyrer Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.